Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live, where we have a new set here. It's nature set number 41 that we're going to be experimenting with. I haven't used these stamps yet, but I did a close inspection of all of these stamps, and I'm always looking for kind of the minute details and how that translated through the engraving, molding, and rubber pressing process. And it all looks really fantastic. But you always want to check and make sure. So, anyways, this is the boreal forest set, and it's an extension of nature sets number 34 and 35, the cozy cabin sets, where we've really incorporated this kind of larch deciduous pine tree. What do you call it? Conifer tree or whatever. But I really like the look of that whole kind of contrast between those light covered pines and the darker ones in the distance. I've done that before with other deciduous trees like maple trees and pine trees and whatnot. But I don't know, takes on a little bit of a different look because we use the silhouette of a evergreen, but it can be done in reverse. So this really creates a lot of great negative space within the structure of those pines. And that's what I'm always going for anyway. And I had never even heard of a large tree, to tell you the truth, before, I don't know, like a couple of years ago. I don't know why I've never heard of it before, but I was going around and doing research on different pines, and I saw those types of trees, and I thought, what the heck is that? It looks like they're like, in full fall colors with golds and reds and yellow tones, like bright reds sometimes at that. And I don't know, did a little reading of. I forgot what they were called. Someone on the live stream had to kind of point it out that it was a larch, but I was looking at those. I think I just looked up deciduous pines or something like that, and that's what those initial designs were based on. But we needed some additional kind of filler background, foreground larches to go with those cabins, and that's what we have here. Okay, so hello, Cynthia, Jeannie, Linda, good to see you. Sharita, Seal, good to see you all. If anyone else is on, thanks for joining in. I have several different types of paper that we're going to be stamping on today. I don't think I have glossy here. I just kind of grabbed a bunch that were just on my table. Yeah, I pre-cut some though, because I wanted to go with some slightly larger pieces here so I can utilize those larger cozy cabins in conjunction with some of these other stamps right here. All right. That being said, these stamps do not have to be used with, any of the other nature sets. They are, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a self-contained grouping here, but they certainly can be used apart from their sibling designs. But semi-gloss papers right here, and some of the pre-printed pattern papers, the suede, vintage, and I have one piece of the wood grained. Actually, maybe we'll grab out some more of these ones too. We'll see what we can get through here. And when I was designing these stamps, the things that I've been doing a lot over the past couple of years are the reflection cards. So I did cut out and I made a card base of one in gold right here, quarter page reflection card format. We'll see if we utilize it. It'll probably be using one of these other papers like this on there. The wood grain coupled with the gold or something like that. And then I did cut out a larger half-page piece with the silver so we can put a scene up here. Okay, I say that because one of the things that, it's really an economy of space when you're doing these types of sets these days. With something like this, if something was a lakeside type of element, in the past I would have done some reflections down here, okay? Underneath all of these kind of waterside images. But I'm kind of leaving out the reflections. It kind of makes it a little bit less dramatic, but the thing is, if you can add in another, I don't know, 30% more different designs than adding in that reflection. I'm just doing that just to give people kind of more bang for their buck in terms of the imagery that's on these plates. So things like this, and I've always said it before on my past images, if it had reflections down here, it signifies that it's a water type of image, okay, with reflective types of imagery reflecting in that water surface, okay. But, you know, you can always just kind of shade this in down here or just, you know, not add in the shadows. Or some people do like a reverse impression. With something like this, they're fairly symmetrical. So you can take this top part and stamp it upside down, or you can take portions of these smaller, you know, designs and stamp them upside down in this area. So you have to be a little bit more, I don't know, kind of inventive. I don't know how inventive that is, you know. Or people just take a mirror image stamp. They stamp it on the mirror image stamp and it gives them a reverse, and they can stamp that down here to give you those reverse impressions like that. Okay, but that being said, these days when I'm doing a lot of reflections, I'm doing them in the reflection cards where I don't even utilize the you know, the reflections on those past stamps itself, Lakeside Cove, you know, Lakeside Cabin, etc., because everything's reflected down here anyway. So, you know, the reflection cards are something I'd always recommend for people. If you haven't done one before, it's really dramatic to watch that develop in front of your eyes as you're doing it, especially the first few ones that you do, because it's not only the reflection down there, but it's kind of the movement of the imagery in that reflected area that's really kind of fun to, I don't know, kind of witness firsthand as you're doing it. Okay, so let's see here. When you get your new images, I don't know, do you guys just stamp them out on your cards or anything like that? Sometimes what I do on my imagery, especially if it's kind of a flatter area, for me, I don't know. I mean, I do this sometimes, or I'll take a paper towel, a damp paper towel, and, you know, you don't have to really do this on most images if it's tonal, but sometimes the areas on the stamps that have kind of a little bit more of a flatter solid area like that, like on that mousse, sometimes I'll just do a little bit of a wiping down of those areas before I stamp it out. And some, you know what I mean? The first time you stamp with something too, it never gives you the best impression. It's always, you know, the third or fourth impression. And that's because when they're making these, they're vulcanizing the rubber. They're pressing the rubber out of those molds. I don't know if they spray a release in the mold before every impression, every press of that rubber. But you might get a little bit of that residual kind of releasing agent on your stamps. It's not necessarily like waterproof or something like that. I don't find like these are resisting my inks, you know, but getting a little bit more surfaced, I don't know, what is it, tension on there probably helps, you know, for that ink to transfer and adhere to, I don't know if it's adhere, but transfer onto your imagery, okay? All right, so that being said, and it also, this one's the cling foam version right here. So sometimes a little bit of a, you know, a ball of that or a speck of that adhesive and cling might be on top of your rubber somewhere. So, you know, you might want to just clean that off a little bit, you know, when doing your first impressions or first cards, something like that. All it takes is a little speck of something like a little dust or something like that to give that kind of, you know, ring type of impression or absence of an impression when you're stamping. All right, let's see. Let's start off just with our regular papers here and take a look and see what we're looking at. All right, some of these images are pretty big, so you'll need a little bit of a larger acrylic block if that's what you use, or, you know, if you're using a Misty or something like that. You don't need blocks for that, but I'm just saying, you know, a fairly large space. All right, so this one's my larger kind of foreground element or side element to the cabins right there. You can see this one's a little bit taller. I made this a little bit taller so it kind of represents something a little bit closer than these images, you know, like that. I mean, but it could be in the background too. It's not going to be any big deal. But I made them a little bit bigger so that, you know, on a card, if this is like back up in this area, we can use these trees now for a foreground type of situation. All right. So let's see how they look. I've inked up. Okay, so all these different papers, I forgot to mention this. So all these different papers, on the cardstock ones, the semi-gloss, I'm going to use my dye-based ink. On the pre-printed papers, the wood grain, the vintage, the suede one, I kind of like my hybrid ink the best on that. You can use a StazOn on that one as well, and you can use a StazOn on this one, okay. But these, what I call stamp sketches right here that I do on these semi-gloss cards, I typically like to utilize some alcohol inks to color. Okay, so when I'm utilizing alcohol inks on something, I tend to stay away from using StazOn for my impressions. Although StazOn, I don't know, one time I did test it out on a StazOn and it didn't smear if I let that StazOn sit like overnight. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it would put it back into solution, you know, that alcohol ink impression. I thought, or the StazOn, the solvent ink impression, I thought would go back into solution even the next day, but it really didn't too much. So you can kind of, you know, experiment around a little bit with that. All right, so that ink looks like it's grabbing that pretty well. Usually I can see if it's not, you know, looking very solid in my darker areas like that. It usually represents that, you know, the ink's kind of beading on the surface a little bit too much. And that's where you might want to kind of clean it off a little bit more before you do your first impressions. Although sometimes, I don't know, you guys ever ink up your stamp and it just never looks like it's inked up and then you test it out and it's fine? Hello, Bill. I find that on some of my stamps. Maybe if it's like, if I use a certain type of ink and I don't clean it off before I utilize it the next time, and maybe I'm using it with a different ink, you know, probably specifically the dye-based ink or something like that. Sometimes it doesn't look like it's transferring very well or evenly, you know. But I don't know, it usually is, even though it looks like it isn't sometimes. All right, let's take a look here. The impressions look good. I'm looking at little detail types of things. It's the things that I specifically look for. I know everything's going to be fine in the kind of the open areas with a little bit of detail, but it's in these transition zones where I've left. It's not quite solid, but it's going from solid into kind of a little bit more open. It's in that darker area where there's just a little bit of negative space. Those are the areas that I'm really looking for that really kind of signify how good the engraver did their job usually, okay? Because they do these acid baths on those magnesium plates. And how long you have that acid bath on there is going to determine how accurate the raised engraving is going to be. And I don't know, that's kind of, that's, you know, that's about detail and everything like that. I have a feeling it's automated now. I'm not sure, but it used to be someone just kind of taking a plate and probably setting it in that acid bath for a certain amount of time, and then they would kind of, I think they just kind of manually rocked it around or something like that, you know, in this acid, and getting it into an area a little bit more, because sometimes in the past, I've used about 5 engravers over the years, probably. And some of them were really inconsistent, or they'd be really good, and and then the sides of the of your stamp, sometimes it would be at a certain angle, it would kind of flare out instead of being vertical. And that wasn't good for stamps because you can potentially get ink on that flared out side. And it would make an impression, so you want things as vertical as possible from the design. Now, with some designs, I have to kind of think about it a little bit, like specifically in the in the last over this last year, like stamping with the like the flower field. The flower field's a really different type of image for me to work with, but this is like kind of an extension on Lakeside Cabin or something like that. That Lakeside Cove that I've been using for 30 years. So it's not really any big, kind of a compositional change for me here. But of course, we want to look and see how things are in relation to one another still. But easy stamping. Okay. All right, so this is the large cove here. Okay, and I just utilized the left side of it over here to extend the right side out to the edge, okay? And I just wanted to see that overlap. I can't really see the overlap too much because I have my foreground in here. Maybe I should have done the background first. But let's test that with this little cluster of trees too. I've noticed people using kind of a little section of my trees, which is what I've been doing too, like right here or something like that in a small section of their scene. And I mean, that's, how those designs are made so that you can do that. But it's kind of a hassle to kind of edit out that extra cabin if you already have a cabin in there. And you're kind of, you're stamping, you just want a grouping of trees, but you don't want that cabin structure in there. So thus this set here. By the way, if anyone's ordered this set, everything has been mailed out today. If it is an unmounted version and just the one sheet or a sheet and a couple stamps, those were mailed out. Just standard postal stamp on envelope. If it's a larger order, it's probably shipped out ground advantage with tracking, okay? But I dropped those off at the post office. Oh, what is it, a few hours ago. All right, let's test out, look at this right here. These are background trees. They're a little bit larger in scale. Okay, I would be using these ones, this larger one, more with, the cabins right here, or behind these ones right here, okay? So, maybe, I don't know. I mean, you could go with that road. I made this one right here, which is a little bit smaller, okay, in scale, if that's going to really matter to you. If I'm doing something, and I'm just doing these in a lighter touch, I don't know if I'm really bothering. And in something like this, some mountains in the background would be really cool. But I'm testing out these the set images here first. So let's take a look here. Before we combine them with some other images. Okay, so I'm looking at this one right here, and I'm looking at the impressions kind of right in here, kind of in those darker areas, if that detail of that background tree is showing up. And it is, because that's lighter right in there and textured than just straight black, okay? Now, if you're using a really, super, super juicy black pad, I mean, this image is still going to look good if that fills in solid black, okay? But, it's better to have the detail in there that you can kind of utilize if you need it or want it, than for it to not be there. So I always put in those little details in there, you know, for your thinner styles of ink, your dye-based inks and your solvent inks, things like that. If you're using a super, super juicy, let's say pigment ink pad, like potentially like a VersaFine Clair, if you re-ink it, you know, those pigment inks are a little bit thicker than dye-based inks and solvent inks. So you might get some of those details kind of filling up in there. Yeah, just because it's a thicker ink to begin with. Some like a really juicy pad it's almost like using like almost like paint in a way. Okay, so I'm creating a little bit of transition right here. I'm inking this up and then wiping it off in the base up like that. Okay, and by doing so and stamping that a little bit higher up, get that little transitioning from darker to lighter so you can see the silhouette of these more foreground trees first. Let's try something too. Let's go for a second impression of this. And let's go a little bit higher up here. Let's see if there's some ink still left on this. Yeah, okay, there we're right in there. God, that stamped out a lot darker than I thought it would. I just re-inked this just because I knew I was going to be doing a bunch of stamp sketches here. Let's go for it. Let's try a third impression. Yeah, see that right up there? So you get near, farther, farthest, like that, when you go from low to high like that, at least in Western perspective. I heard one time in one of my classes when we were talking about perspective, this is back when I was in school, I guess in Western perspective, it's usually, you know, the lower it is represents, you know, an area that's closer to us. So here's the foreground down here. And then they were talking about how in Asian art, the location of certain types of objects represented where something was in time. Now I didn't know where. They didn't follow up saying, okay, if it's here, then it represents whatever kind of, you know, time. This is older and this is newer or something like that. But there we go, those stacks like that. We can go even up higher or something like that, but I went pretty light like that, so if I put a mountain behind there, I'd have to go a little bit, you know, I'd probably want it a little bit darker than this. This is like really light like this. But if I'm only going to have open sky up here, you can go really, really light like this with a lot of lighter impressions, and we'd create a real good depth of imagery in terms of creating distance. Okay, so that was the small kind of cluster like that. Now that small cluster like that too, I was thinking about these things like this. I mean, these could be waterside types of things. I call them, I forgot what I call them. I might have called them background larches or something like that. Yeah, just because we have to kind of differentiate them from one from another, but they could easily be just like right on your water side too. Okay, these other ones that kind of officially have a little bit more of a shoreline like that, you know what I mean? It's a little bit more like water's edge, but these ones that just kind of end like this, you know, that can be like water or ice or something like that down there. Or you can just like leave a little bit of space and then that thus becomes your shoreline. You can put a few little rocks or something like that. So this could easily be your water's edge type of imagery. But again, I did it like this so that it can be used as background too. And again, without having more stuff down here, down below like that, you know, it would have squeezed off some space on this plate and I might not have been able to fit in like a couple of these other images. So I don't know, we're really trying to utilize all the whatever square footage, inchage on there. All right, let me see something right here. I don't know. This might be deeper water or something like that, but let's just throw this moose down here since we have a few of these. I'll just use my small one. I'm really curious to see it. And if I was doing the scene and coloring it all in, I'd wait to do this until I was done typically. And I would add this in right over the top of all of my coloring and things like that. But let's just do it here. Let's do something like this too. Let's wipe off this reflection area a little bit so that it transitions. You can wipe off some of that just like up there and get a varied image in terms of light and dark. It's a really good way to, stamp just monochromatic, mono value images when you're inking it up that way, at least, by removing some of the ink and making it a little bit drier down below so that it's just not one uniform color like that. We do that in terms of stippling and things like that, but I'm talking about more solid imagery too. And so you get this actual gray down there like that. So it's one of those little tweaks like that. I think that looks pretty decent there. I think that moose kind of fit in right there, with no problem. I definitely wouldn't use the larger one like this, in between those trees. I don't think it would kind of make those, well, I don't know. Maybe that one does look okay. I was going to say, it would mean that these trees are really small here in terms of whatever reference, a comparison. All right, let's see. Some suggest rubber AA red eraser. Oh, yeah. I would probably do that if I had like one of those, the images, as far as brand goes, Dee Grunig from Posh Impressions, she always had those really cool, real solid styles of images. And I don't know, people were talking about getting those to stamp out kind of initially. And they were even talking about sandpaper. And that absolutely made me cringe, but they were talking about some kind of grit, like a super fine grit of sandpaper, which I thought was nuts, but I mean, that would definitely create that kind of surface friction. But I thought that was crazy though. In terms of, when I heard it, I guess it worked in application though. I think, because I don't know, that's what people were saying. Or I don't know, maybe that's what they were suggesting. All right, let's see here. Let's do something. Let's do something with these backgrounds here. Let me throw that moose up there too. In there. Let's go back to this larger one. Hello, Laura. How are you? I was happy to see that some people with kind of a moose in their environment said, "Hey, that's that looks like my area," or something like that. With the larches too. Needless to say, San Diego, not exactly a large moose type of environment. Not even at the San Diego Zoo or Wild Animal Park. I don't think they have any. I don't think they have moose at either location. Okay. Just a real quick composition. Let's go up high. If you're just checking this out, checking out the, I don't know, whatever, the channel for the first time, this is a new set, so I'm doing what we call stamp sketching. I'm not really doing like one card and kind of finishing it off here. Did you put my order? No, I didn't put it in the mail, Linda. Yeah, it's like with the postal program or whatever systems, they won't even if you have Canada in the system there, it won't even bring up the possibility of shipping it out to Canada via the postal system. But I think you did send me that notice that someone saw via UPS. So my system still accepts UPS. But I don't know, that note was in terms of something about the volume of parcels that USPS is going to be, or UPS is going to be getting to Canada because of that strike. But it still took my UPS label input to Canada. So I'm sure, I don't know, I'm guessing UPS is fine to ship there. One thing that someone did, they were kind of both in their a similar area. Moose right here. This stamped out a little bit lighter, so I was able to put that moose up into that area a little bit. You know, I normally wouldn't have this image right behind this moose in that head area. Like if this was really dark in here, this would just get lost in there in terms of the silhouette of it. And especially with the head, you know, you don't want that head to be kind of obscured for a moose or any kind of thing, and a person or an animal. But that just worked fine up in that area. If this was a lot darker up here, I would have stamped this lower. Okay. Okay, I wasn't going to do this, but this is just the little rocky pebble type thing right here. So, you know, what I was talking about, the how I didn't include the reflections of these types of water body elements. You know, I think that looks fine like that. It is a little bit more dramatic if you have like this large, you know, these types of fall foliage types of images reflected in the water. You know, when people take like do photography, and it's like of a lakeside type of scenario. You know, the thing that really makes it dramatic is that all those deciduous trees and that fall color is reflected down in that. Usually it's a mirrored type of body of water, you know, where someone's taken it, you know, usually it's early morning like that. But like I said, we fit a lot more images onto the set there. So more bang for a buck. Let me see. This little opening right here would be a really great place to put like a little, here, let's do this. I might add like not right now, but I'm going to add this right here right in the background right here. But wouldn't this be great? Like having like a big moon right here with that moonlight kind of coming through here like that. Somebody in their mind said, yeah, that would be awesome. And it's like, but I'm following it up here with like, okay, I'm not going to be doing that right now. And they're going like, ah. All right. Let's go back to that little one, which is right here, treetop small. And let's do this. Let's blot it off once like that. Mask off right here. And let's mask off both sides. Like that. Kind of under mask a little bit though, like that. You know, like have a lot of that image showing right in there. Maybe even a 1/4 inch sometime. And remember, we've stamped this off a little bit too. And let's go right in here like so. Okay. So it's like the far edge of that, and then we have space right up here for, I mean, it could be a moon or a sun or something like that. Okay, so this is just on a 1/4 page piece right here. I think that looks a good thing. You could put a quote up here too if you had space, or a word stamp. Skies are typically where I'd like my quotes. I don't know, for some reason. Maybe it's because it's just high and that seems like a natural place. But I don't know, there are also natural kind of focal landing spots with that, with, you know, whatever, sunset, stars, whatever, All right. Need something in the foreground here, but yeah, I'll do that later. We'll figure something out like that. Maybe some rocks or something like that. Or it could just be like that too. Maybe some grass or something like that. One of the things I want to try out with the moose sometime too are the some images that I haven't used too much over the years, which are the beaver dam things, because they really create a lot of. I was watching these videos on beavers and kind of the ecosystems they create, and it really creates a lot of what is that? You know, underwater grassy types of things that moose like to eat. So I want to use some of that imagery with these moose designs. Let's see here. So let's go back to work for a bit until things are settled. Tentative agreement. Oh, wow. Hope that's the case there. Yeah, it was time, Cecile. I've been wanting to do kind of a new version of the Lakeside Cove for a while, and the larch kind of imagery was the perfect whatever the foundation for it, I guess. So I can't. I really like when I design these things. It's oftentimes there's all these different types of scenarios going through my head in terms of usage. So yeah, I can't wait to use these. And the thing about these larches too, it really gives us an excuse to pop out the a whole spectrum of the color schemes that I don't usually use too much, unless it's in the sky or something like that. Mainly the warm yellows, oranges, reds, that type of thing. Really nice bright colors. Like I said, when I was doing scenes, I would typically think of that as a sky type of thing. I mean, we have the deciduous, autumn imagery, but there's not like a huge amount of those ones. So I really wanted these. I don't know, just some different imagery in that format of the cove, but with just more whatever textural variation and thus color variation in there. So larches. Okay, let's try that with a couple of these cabins here. I mean, you use one cabin and these larches can be used with any of these images. It's not just, okay, which cabin was that? Was that the cozy night or the cozy day? You can do it with either. Okay, so if I was trying to extend this out before, I would probably use right here, these trees right here. I'd color them up and stamp them right over here, and I'd have to do it again just to fill in that space here if I wanted a continuous kind of water's edge type of thing around them. But now let's test out and see if we have this right here taken care of. We'll see how it integrates. All right. This is one of those things, just from past experience when I'm doing these kind of scenic stamping demonstrations, for people that haven't done it before. They think that, okay, you're going to have to do some masking around here and really some careful placement. This was before things like Misties and, all the different positioners and things like that. But, anytime you're combining imagery that are outline designs, if you have something that's going to the side of something, behind of something like that, you're masking off, okay? But with tonal images like that, it's nice and seamless, and you can't see where one image starts and the other one begins just simply by overlapping your imagery. All right, so let's do this right here. This is a piece of the Larch Cove. I had to remember the names of all of these. If you ever wonder how I kind of come up with the names, I usually do the designs, and there might be something kind of obvious, moose and water, you know, or something like that. But I'll typically just get the designs and I'll put them on. I'll do the plate layout, and then I'll start thinking about names. And it's just a really fast process. I don't really think about it too much. It's kind of a boring name convention. This looks pretty interesting. You know, it's going kind of like high, lower, lower like that, or like this angle like this. I was going to put some more of these trees back up there, but I think maybe what we'll do is we'll emphasize this right here by coming in. Sometimes you go, okay, so this is like high to low. Sometimes you could do the opposite. You can go from high to low this way as well with some foreground imagery too. So you go like high, lower, lower like that. It's kind of the opposite. Or you can go like high right here. I don't know, it creates these interesting angles. Like, let me fill in that little space right in there though. It feels like these trees right back here would kind of continue up right here. To me, let's do it like this. Let's stamp it off once, blot off from the base like that, and just go in here like so. Overlap. Background trees right in there. Let me do another one. Right back in there like so, okay? You can do this in like snow. Some ice skaters out here would kind of be cool too. Maybe I won't do those foreground images in here. And I'll leave this open. This looks like, if we just left this non-textural like that. So you can do, you can put this at any time of year too. You can put it, you know, where this is a liquid body of water, or it could be a frozen body like this. It'd be kind of cool to have like a, I keep going back to that moon or something like this. You have this moon right up in here, which is kind of cool because you have this geometric triangle like this, especially if I do like a large moon right up here. And then you have this open area down here, and this could be just like a frozen lake or something like that. Unless you have the moose with reflections down in here like that. Yeah, actually I might leave this like as is for right now. Okay. But I like this angle right here, this distance right here that this new set does with the cabin. Okay, so this large tree right here, if it's the cabin that's facing the other way, I have cabins facing both, different ways in those cabin sets. But if it's facing the other way, then you just put this on the other side. But like I said, I mean, if you wanted to put this here, I mean, that would work too, okay? But this one really kind of stretches distance a little bit more like that. All right, let's see. Okay, so here's what we're looking at right here so far. Yeah. Like I said, it's, from a structural standpoint, this isn't like breaking, huge new ground or something like that. It's just kind of an extension of things, that we've done before. Tons of deer near my house, and I'm always so afraid they're going to cause an... Oh, wow. You mean just in terms of like driving around? Let's see. Hello, Bonnie, and hello, Glenda. Happy you're here. Happy to be here. Thanks for joining in. Hello, Jeannie. Okay. Yeah, but as far as that strike went, there was I have two customers in Alberta, and what they did was they ordered, and one person just said, "Hey, can you ship UPS if it costs a little bit more? I'm willing to, I'll pick up the extra." But then she said, "Hey, wait for, their friend's order that's going to come in too, and can you combine them?" And their combination of the two postage things were less than what it would cost to ship to them. The cheapest way I usually ship is a simple export individually. So I ended up giving them partial refunds in their things because they combined their two orders. I guess they live within whatever driving distance from one another. So, but yeah, UPS was their method there. Let's do one of these, or a couple of these daytime cabin sets here. Let's try it on the, let's try this one on the pre-printed vintage paper, and let's see what that looks like here. Okay, this is the hybrid ink on this paper. Let's see, which way is this facing? It's like that. So it is right here. Let's go a little bit lower here. I'm going to try to leave kind of equal spacing on the left and right here. Oh, I should have went vertical portrait so I can use like a larger stack of the treetops up here. Okay. On these vintage papers and pre-printed wood grain papers, I don't usually use a lot of different colors to color in on these papers. I think it's better. I like it a little bit better, kind of a little bit more simple looking in terms of the finishes on there, just because, so we can, showcase the actual, textures of this paper. If I, stamped on this paper right here and you kind of fill it all in, I mean, I guess you can do that, but, it'd be kind of burying a lot of the characteristic of the surface that you're using. And if you're using the surface for, to create a little bit of extra visual interest from the inherent textures on here, you know what I mean? You might not want to fill it all up. I mean, you can just use it as a base tone too. But on these papers like this, just a little bit of colored pencil or something like that, I think. I think I've tried it heavier, and I've gone in with just some tests, using alcohol inks and things like that. I didn't really like the look. I mean, I've only done it like once, but and that's all it took to kind of turn me off of it. We have so many different techniques and things like that, to utilize on there, and, a set amount of time to discover them all. It was like, I don't need to use this paper for like heavy concentrations of media, unless maybe I was just using the wrong media on it. But yeah, I think I tried it with, I don't know, my kitchen sink, a little bit of the colored pencils, alcohol inks, acrylic paint pens, etc. Yeah, let's go like that. I went a little bit heavy right now. You see that right there where it overlapped. It got a lot darker right there with the double area impression right there. Let's see how this goes right here. Okay, so this is using the taller trees, and I'll use it on the right and left-hand side of it. Okay. I tell you what, where that overlap is going to occur on this type of paper right here is very absorbent. I'm going to wipe off a little bit of that, so when I run it in there like that, less prone to that kind of darker edge right there. If that happens like that, that kind of bothers me if I was just going to stamp this out. But see, what I would do is I would just use some black colored pencil right in here, and I'd bring this tree up a little bit darker next to this one. Now that might be a little bit darker right now just because it's wet ink on there. When it dries and it kind of absorbs in a little bit more, it kind of starts to balance out a little bit better. Okay, let's try something here too. Let's use this in our foreground area. This is, okay, now this hybrid ink is a little bit of a combination of both the oil-based pigment and water-based dye inks. Let me try something here. We're doing more stamp sketches and experimenting with the imagery and how the imagery kind of blends with each other, but let's do this too. Let's do a little bit of a test here, and I'll utilize just straight pigment ink here, and we'll see if it stamps out darker than this right here. Provided my black here is nice and pad is juicy. Now this is a Brilliance pigment ink, but you can use like a VersaFine Clair, an oil-based one. And let's go with this. Okay, so this is another way that I've kind of anticipated using this one. This larger, what do I call it? Trees and shore stamp like this could be used kind of in the midground probably, and in the foreground in the same setting right here. That came out a lot lighter like that. That overlap is really kind of building up on this really a super absorbent paper. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see here. Maybe when you're overlapping that, wipe off those areas then. Okay, let's see. Oh, and these shore things too, like I said, with all kind of water-based images. Doesn't have to be water in here or something like that, or represent a body of water, especially with, you know, since it doesn't have the reflections in there. You can, all this can always be like a grassy little area, meadow, or anything like that, as within all, you know, the Stampscapes imagery. If it has a reflection, like with the Lakeside Cove, Lakeside Cabin type of imagery, you just don't color in the reflections. But like I said, in this set right here, you won't have to worry about that because the reflections are not included. All right, so images like this in the background like that are also in these foregrounds right here to create that. This would be really good with the tall peakers, something like that in the background here. Let's try that right here. Let's use the rocky peaks here and see what that looks like. But yeah, Linda, yeah, I shipped that one out to those two people via UPS, so bypassing the postal system there, and the transit time is only like 5 business days, I think, via UPS. The one thing about UPS, though, sometimes there's extra kind of like paperwork and stuff like that for the for the recipient. Okay, I stamped off a little bit too much ink down here. Go in right here and just get in some extra textures down below like that. And here, I'm going to watch for that deciduous tree right here and close that off. And I'll just stamp this right over the top, like about like so, and we'll extend that range of mountains in the background like so. Should I take a chance here? Is there enough ink left on there? Yeah, in the background like that. Let's see. Let's try it one more time. Let's see if we can go really light. Okay. I can control this a little bit better if I'm doing glossy cardstock, because I don't know how much ink really came off this stamp, or is going to come off this stamp on this super absorbent matte style of paper like this. Okay, let's go high, and hopefully it's really light. Yeah, okay. So it's like this where I don't do a ton of coloring on this. I would just do some shading right around in here. I mean, it's larger, so you can bring in a little bit of extra tone in there if you want to, too. But a lot of times I like to fill in just as a kind of a, it's like a value study, okay? So you have darker, your dark tones, and you're really utilizing light tones like that. So you can get a lot of the, the actual scene just in, complete finish, just done with your impressions, just using grayscale, a little darker for the foreground elements and lighter in the background. All these didn't stamp out quite as dark as I would have wanted it to, but I think it looks pretty good like that. All right, so that is your vintage style of pre-printed paper. It's really cheap. So if you ever get that vintage stuff, it's really inexpensive, and there's a gazillion different varieties of them. They typically are 8.5 by 11, and then they have a really strong kind of vignette around the perimeter like that. It's not really great for us, to have the vignette on a 8.5 by 11, especially if we're doing quarter pages, because then that darker edge will just be in one corner. But if you do it like in the half, then these darker corners will be, in whatever corner you want, the lower corner on the top. I usually use it as a top like that, just as a little bit of a framing device to have darker corners like that. And then my lower areas usually have imagery stamped down there anyway, so that kind of frames off this lower area like so. All right, let's try something too with the, as if we were doing like a reflection card. I can't wait to use these. I couldn't wait to use these stamps in a reflection card format. Okay, now my top portion is not going to be really super dynamic here, because I'll just use a piece of white paper, but we'll see how these images work in a reflective type of situation here. UPS has always been successful in the past. Yeah, UPS didn't used to be an option for me shipping really anywhere, except for domestic wholesale orders, typically that were over a certain type of weight. So, direct to consumer, I had typically been shipping just everything out US Postal. Okay, and it's just because of the cost. Shipping UPS to someone, there was a residential surcharge that you had to pay with. Let me do this one. Let me do this one quarter page right here. So it got really expensive. Okay, but using these shipping sites now, you kind of get the same discount as if you were like a big client of theirs, because they pass on that mass discount to their customers, meaning, whoever's doing the shipping. So you might get, I don't know, with UPS, it might be 50% off retail. Internationally, it could be as high as like 80%. So I would never ship out something like, just an individual's order on an international, to an international destination. But a lot of those, like I said, a lot of those costs now are like 70% off or something like that. 80, I think it was. One time I shipped to Australia or New Zealand or something like that, and it was a steep discount. It was still, a little bit pricey, but it might have been in line with priority mail. But the UPS was like, I don't know, 3 times as fast or something like that. The only, but like I said, sometimes the paperwork is a kind of a pain in the butt, you know. Like one time I shipped to Belgium, and that UPS there was causing my customer a lot of grief because they were asking for everything. I included all the paperwork that should have been needed, but I don't know, they lost my invoice or something showing the value, and they were having him like prove value and everything like that. It was a major hassle, and they held his stamps for a little while. Okay, so this is just the top portions right there. And that'll look like this. Now, this is not a finished card. I'm just showing you, for example. You know, there's the, the edge of the lake out that way. But then let's try some of these larger trees here in the foreground. Let's go with that. I'm going to be stamping these on the foil, okay? So we're going to have to switch inks again for the foil. Yeah, you can use the StazOn on any of the papers that we've used already, but like I said, if you're going to be using alcohol inks to color in, probably not the best idea to use the solvent ink, because alcohol could put the solvent inks back into solution. Okay, let's see. I didn't I better re-ink this here. Does anyone hate the smell of StazOn ink? I do not hate it. I've liked the smell of solvents sometimes, and stuff like that in the past. I don't know if I'd like an aerosol spray or something like that, but like a film developer and stuff like that. I spent a lot of time in dark rooms in my school days. All that developer and fixer and all those chemicals like that. It probably wasn't good for me, but touching it with bare hands too. I've never minded. The smell. I don't know if that stays on. I wonder if that stays on if they gave it some kind of like scent. All right, so here's these trees in this foreground like that, okay? And if you guys haven't seen, some of those watching, this is just a standard card base right here. Quarter page, 4.5 or 4.25 by 5.5. So 8.5 by 8.5 by 5.5 like that. Folded in half. Reflective card surface down in this area. You have to stamp with your, ink, type of ink accordingly that's going to stick to that. But there's your reflection type of, whatever, effect result like that. Okay. Let's do that thing too. Let's use that, one of our little characters down here. Let's try a different moose on this one. StazOn ink dries very fast. Here's one of my old, look at how chipped my stamp cleaner is. I did break this out. I'm usually not cleaning after everything, but I figured, okay, on this one I'm going to be using these stamps with all these different types of inks. Maybe I should clean off a little bit, especially after the StazOn on here. This is from Stampendous or Fun Stamps. I don't know if anyone knows that company. All right, let's see. And I just use water. And that's one of the big questions I've always had in the past is what do you clean your stamps with? It's like the answer's usually been nothing. I don't clean them. Or if I do, It's usually, just tap water. Sometimes if they're really gummed up and let's say I'm cleaning off, I got 50 stamps I got to clean off, because they're starting to resist the ink a little bit, I'll squirt a little bit of like a simple green in with my water or something like water bottle, and I'll utilize that. Okay, here's the moose. The moose is just kind of looking in a different direction from the other one. But these objects in your water that you stamp down here, they're really effective in kind of creating a kind of a dimensional look. I should say too, for those that haven't stamped on metallic surfaces like this, if it's a really solid image like these moose are, they're largely silhouette like that, okay? A lot of times what you get is there's kind of like a air pocket or something that develops in there, or when you stamp on there and you lift it off, it's like, oh my gosh, it kind of like there's areas of the object, in this case a moose, the body of the moose, where it didn't stamp out, like in the interior it didn't stamp out, just like super black with this combination of media, and sometimes there's like whole hollow areas in there. Okay, but I just kind of go into it expecting it, and all I do, I don't know where my Sharpie pen is, but I just fill it in with a little Sharpie pen like that, and it's fine. All right, but anyway, this is the base for something like this right here. Okay. This can make a really fast card too, instead of using like a white piece of paper up here. Now we're going to be coloring in something like that or stamping out some extra imagery up top, whatever, quote stamp or anything like that. But if you're stamping this on like photo stamping or something like this, where there's going to be some inherent clouds up here, this really makes for a really fast and I think really effective card. If it was a winter type of thing, or let's say you have ice skaters down here, I would use more silver than gold if it was a winter type of scene with some ice skaters. You can just stamp everything out and it just stays on ink. A couple ice skaters down here, Merry Christmas, whatever, Happy Holidays, that type of thing. And it would make for a really fast Christmas. You can do something like, if it's black up here, I don't know, you can do that. Your card base doesn't have to be black either, but if you just kind of like did like a reverse impression, maybe this is dark blue up here instead for, a winter card, holiday card or something like that, but you can emboss something in silver up here, and that would look really good in terms of kind of your sequential continuity. If you emboss something in silver up here, like a word stamp or something like that, if you're mass producing them too, it'd go really fast. But then you open it up and that same type of reflective quality down here in terms of the reflected element is silver too. I think that would be really cool. And you might be thinking, well, where am I going to sign the card or something like that? Well, you can do it on the back and you can say to whoever, and you can sign it in like a silver pen, and that'd be fun. So I get three silvers. All right. So that is the base for that. Let's add something up to the top here. Let's go ahead and add a few of the these background trees in here again. Before we move on, let's see. Let's go with the trying to find a block. Here we go. I'll just use this one. All right. Let's see. What did I use for this one? Did I stamp that out in the StazOn, or did I go with my dye ink? I think it's probably dye. Okay. Now this already has a little bit of a kind of an arc to it, which I usually like to do, because it brings in the viewer's eye kind of centrally, into a scene. Plus, it represents distance like that, but also it brings the viewer's eye. So if this is stamped anywhere in your scene, it's going to bring the viewer in, which you want to kind of suck them in there from a visual standpoint, maybe an interest standpoint too, but... so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few more of these images, and we'll kind of do it like a little bit of the same, we'll continue the same type of arc right here. Now, okay, now this is a, if this was the top of my reflection card, I usually don't like to add too much up here. I like to keep this area up here a little bit simpler because it reflects better down below, having it a little bit more simple. But, this, what I'm doing here in this video is, I want to test out these, images more and see how they work together. More than, like, say, creating the most effective type of card that I can, in this case, a reflection card. Okay, something like that. You can create, like, space up here, too, now that I look at this, and do that thing where it's like a valley of clouds or something like that. I was doing a lot of that with the mystic imagery. But, yeah, this would work really good, too. I want to do another one right here. I'm not sure if there's enough ink on here, if it's even. Let's just go like that. Okay, let's put some mountains in the background. Let's keep these ones pretty light, though, again. Okay, let's see. I'm going to give it a pretty good impression right there to remove off, hopefully, like 70% of the ink. I'm wiping off on the bottom like this to really make it transition, and then a little bit less through the middle right there. Okay. So that it kind of goes from darker to lighter down here, but it's not going to be super dark because I, took off a lot of the ink already. And let's go right here. Third impression, right? Because remember, I stamped off a lot of it back there. Okay, something like that. And let's see. Something like that. Right there. Okay. Now see, it's in a reflection card too. You don't want it to go too dark with an imagery up here if you have some kind of focal point down here. So see those mountains down there? That reflection of these, this area right here. So you can see my finger by that moose down below. If these peaks right here were really dark, we wouldn't be able to see the silhouette of that moose as good, as we can, if these were a lot darker, because the reflection would be darker too. So anyway, like that. I'll leave this open right here. That's a really good spot for like a quote stamp or something of that sort. All right, so and these ones right here, with this golden kind of a, surface area down here. I do a lot of golds for my large trees up top. Maybe with a golden, whatever, sunset or haze up there too would be good to match that lower section. So, all right, so that was a reflection card in a quarter page format. Let's take a look at something here. Let's just see what this would look like, or something similar to this, but with the wooden, wood grain cardstock up above. It's not cardstock, it's wood grain paper. Wood grain paper, really great for scenic stamping. If you ever want to get that stuff, it is really fantastic. It is the one that I'm using is, there's wood grain paper cardstock out there too that's nice and thick and beautiful and everything like that, but this wood grain paper is really great because it is it's wood grained disposable placemat paper for like parties or something like that. I didn't have to go for a party, but they're coming 11 by 17, and you have it out there for your whatever hot dog cookout and you toss it out afterwards. They're really super inexpensive. All right, let's see here. Let's go with the hybrid ink again. Let's just have a different top portion here. Let's do this right here. Okay, so this was the real distant type of imagery in here, like, you know, opposite side of the lake. I don't know, whatever it represents. A half mile away or something like that. I don't know. Let's try, let's just do, actually, let's try one of the cabins here. Let's throw one of the cabins down here like this. So we'll bring the other side of the lake much closer. Let's try that, and then we'll use some of these larger treetops, you know, off to the other side of it. Let's try that right here. One of the things with the wood grain right here, you know, the way you cut it and thus, like that, you know, comes into play because the grains are going in a certain direction. So if you want them to be more kind of like a sky type of textures or something like that in the water, then you might want to go with it horizontal, you know, those grains like that. This way right here, you know, it tends to have more lift and, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look like it, but, you know, I tend to think of those vertical striations like that as something like a, it makes me think of something more like an aurora borealis, northern lights, you know, curtains, those light curtains type of thing. But anyways, either way, that natural wood grain is like perfect for scenic stamping. Okay, let's see here. It's kind of like that. I'm gonna hold this down a little bit longer. I'm trying to think of how I haven't stamped on that wood grain for a while. I don't think. Did I do it? I can't remember if I did it for the Halloween style of imagery. I think I was mostly working on that vintage type of paper that, you know, because I really like that with the Halloween imagery. Okay, and let's do... Let's go with this right here. When's the last time Canada had a postal strike, Linda? Or do you remember one? Hey, were we talking about this last week? I was trying to remember if there's been one there before. And is it that's just the entire postal system, or is it like the carriers, or what? I think I was mentioning last week. I don't remember a postal strike here in the U.S., but I definitely remember the UPS strike in the 1990s, I think. And I think it was before UPS went public, too. I think. I was watching this, I was watching the news back then, and they were interviewing someone, these people that were picketing, you know, the UPS workers, and I saw my my UPS guy back there with a sign. It's like, hey, there's Rick. Okay, like that. Maybe I won't go too complex or anything like that, but there's the treetops like that, and we have this type of thing, okay? So yeah, I'm not gonna go up too high right up here because I don't want those trees or anything in the background here to extend down here. But you can do that though, you know, if it's a little bit lighter in value. But right here, you know, these are, I don't know what, but on these wood grain papers, for some reason, I really like doing like quote stamps for some reason, the word stamps. That would go really well in there. I guess it's because, I don't know, on this paper, I don't like to fill it up as much, maybe. So it leaves more space for text and words, quotes, things like that. But yeah, I mean, doesn't mean I would just leave it like this. I mean, we could put like a, you can do like one of those moons. And if you did like a moon up here, like one of those just white pigment ink moons, then you can have it down here behind the moose, and it would be like it would be like a spotlight on that moose too, and that would be fun. But anyway, there's the treetops right there, the larger treetops. Okay, you can have another cabin on the other side of that too, neighbors. Lakeside neighbors. And there, okay, so anyways, wood grain paper, just some white paper. And again, this, I wouldn't just leave this white. This is going to get colored in and everything like that. All right. October 1981. Okay, that's like way back when. Wow. Yeah, because I don't remember ever kind of having to work around besides the pandemic, work around any type of closures of some country's postal system. All right, let's try something on let's go with another, let's go with the suede paper. I haven't used the suede in a long time. This looks like it's thicker than a half-page piece. Let's do something like, let me go with another one of these cabins here, the night cabins. The night cabins just mean that the windows are a little bit more open, so if you want to have them kind of the illusion of interior lighting on them, you can just kind of color them in. The daytime cabins just have more of the darker windows. I think someone mentioned you should just do them all for Al's night type of things. They just said, Kevin, we can color in those windows, but they just like the ability to just color in any kind of color. Typically it's white or yellow or something like that for interior lighting. But on the, but doing that, just with the, just inherently with the cabins without having to not color them in. I'm talking about the daytime ones. The daytime ones, the windows are filled in. So I don't know. Someone just mentioned they would just rather have them all open, which was interesting. When I thought about that, it's like, you might have a point there. Maybe it's easier to just fill in an open window than it is to extract out the colored in window. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I don't know. Who said that? Bill, did you? I don't know. Maybe Bill, did you say that or something? I don't know. I forget who said that. Bill might have went to sleep. Oh, you like that paper, Sharita? Sharita, are you talking about the suede? Because I was thinking maybe Sharita. Did you already get any of these other kind of boutique kind of papers? The suede one too is designed to be a disposable placemat paper. But when I did receive the package of this disposable paper, it did have in there, you can use it for crafts too. Or, whatever, card making. I don't think they had any examples of it though. But I really like it. It's that natural type of tone to it, the natural warmth. So natural types of like surfaces and fibers really look really good. There was another one. It's not burlap, or maybe it was burlap. I thought it looked pretty cool, but it was a little bit too textured and contrasty. Boy, that one really stamped out beautifully on this paper right here. This is kind of a, it's got a little bit of a semi-gloss sheen to it, you know. Um, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know. That stamped out really dark and even on that suede. I mean, a lot more than. I mean, this is. I don't know. It's not compare. You know, different compare thing. You know, but this is like totally like porous right here. This is meant to go through your laser and inkjet paper printers. You know, to print a lot of stuff on it. You know what I mean? They showed like recipes or like certificates or something like that. You know, where this one's. It has a little bit of that coating on there because it's a placemat paper, so they want to make it a little bit resistant to it's not waterproof, you know, they're not gonna like totally coat it like that, but it's you're gonna be eating like greasy foods on it and stuff like that, and they don't want to be like soaking through it really fast and staining like your linens or something like that, or someone's clothes if they're eating off their lap. So that's what this paper's kind of about. Yeah, as is the the wood grain one. The wood grain one, it's not quite as coated though, so I don't know. Or maybe that's why this isn't it's like soaking in as much maybe. Anyway, that's why I typically use semi-gloss cardstock. If I do go with a less than glossy cardstock, I'm usually using the semi-gloss just so that it has a little bit of a sealant over the top of it, just for darker impression quality and media retention, surface retention. Okay, let's see. Keep that down here a little bit. Had to go eat dinner. Oh yeah. I'll post these maybe, Laura, too. Or Laura, you're not on Facebook, are you? Or are you? I can't remember. Maybe did you just? I think you just emailed me like some of those moon shots. It wasn't something you posted, social media, right? All right, like that. Let's go like this. We'll make that even, this cozy cabin look even cozier kind of by bringing in some trees around it. Speaking of a lot of trees surrounding a cabin, the insurance companies are no longer kind of insuring. They're dropping out of California. So it was when I see things like this relevant to today's kind of conversation, it's like, okay, that house is never going to get like coverage, All right, we'll go. Okay, I'll bring us down here. I was going to go higher up here, so this would be like right up here, but we'll go down a little bit below this, which would break this like closer to us, kind of more foregroundish. Yeah, it looks like it's going about midway. It's like 50% maybe. All right, like that. And let's go back to our treetops large. Let me see how this paper handles the kind of the transitioning tone aspect, because it's stamping out. So this, I almost feel like I'm stamping out in glossy cardstock with this. Is it drying on there just fine? I think I've used this on here before when I was experimenting. Those are some pretty nice impressions on there. Whenever I start using some of these funky papers like this, kind of the non-traditional, whatever, crafting, stamping papers, inevitably people ask me where I got it, so I'll put a link up to it on, like Facebook or something like that. Then all of a sudden, it's like, all these different sellers for these different types of products on Facebook, it's like they're sold out. They're probably wondering, man, it's like it's not even the picnic season, or something like that. They're the outdoor, party season where people are getting this type of thing. But I did notice that, I don't know, I think I ordered a couple packs of it, but all of a sudden it's like sold out or something like that. So I think what happens when I looked for it for someone said, hey, where'd you get that suede paper from? And I tried to find the link, but I don't think it was up, or it said sold out or something like that a couple times. All right, man, it looks pretty decent. It didn't stamp it as dark. Okay, so I lifted this up kind of faster here. So maybe you need to let it transfer over. Let's try that again. I mean, that looks pretty good like that. I didn't want it that light though. Okay. On the top portion. Okay, so I'm not taking off any of the ink up top like that. I think I just made too fast of an impression right there. So let's go up right here. And let's stamp and hold for a little bit longer. Suede paper, yeah. And I did have the vignette paper for the scene that you helped me with. Okay, yeah. Let me see. And I did have the vignette paper for the scene that you helped me with where I was completely lost on what to do. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, Sharita, have you used that paper since, though? Now that you were completely navigational expert after that. All right. Okay, that's better. See that kind of darker to lighter like that. Okay, so I'm looking at those background trees in relation to this. I wanted to see what the relationship would look like from these trees and if it's working just like I wanted it to. Okay, so here's what I did too. Here's a little thing too. Okay, so in the past there was this stamp called Pine Row, okay? And like I said, these don't have to be background trees, but I did them so that we'd have a lot of background trees for, these cabins, or just background trees for the stamps on this image. But so a row of pine trees in the past would have just been like dark silhouettes, right? And I've used those for years that way. And I would just do that little wipe off on the bottom of my Pine Row. This isn't the Pine Row. I'm talking about a different stamp. Let me see if I have it right next to me. I don't see it right next to me, or behind me. But these trees right here are a natural kind of transition right here. So see, if I have some dark trees, like these tops right here, on other stamps, Lakeside Cabin, whatever, Lakeside Cove, I can stamp this in the background. It would create some, negative space trees or larches in the background of something. So you can have some darker trees right in here, tops like this. So that's why it goes light to dark. So if I stack this one too, like this, with additional pressions in the background, like to create more distance, these ones right here, even stamped out at full strength, won't interfere with the silhouette of the trees on top because it'll go from light trees, dark trees to light trees again because these ones in the background. I'll show you what I'm talking about right here. Or I don't know. Here, let me try right here. Let's just take a blank piece of paper and let's grab that same imagery right here. I mean, it's all kind of in theory. I mean, I kind of figured out how it's going to work, but I haven't had that before in the pine tree type of, imagery to this point. So the larches, I thought, would solve that type of thing for me. So a lot of times I would put space in between there too. So I'd have some, not with this stamp, I'm talking about the old, just straight evergreen style pine trees. Okay, so, all right, so we're taking this, we're just using the same imagery again. And I'll go low with this one too. I'll go right into those other trees right in there. So see that right in there, that space right here, we can still see the silhouette of these trees right here. Now I want to see them a little bit better though. So let's do this. I'm using a super juicy pad here because I really re-inked this knowing that I was probably going to be doing a bunch of, just black and white layouts right here using this new designs. But let's see. Let's see if we can just keep stacking this like this. Okay. Yeah, and see that transition right there? But see that how it really stands out a lot more. Like I said, you can do this with just, if it was only just straight pine trees like I'm doing in the past, but in this one we have those negative space trees in there just inherently, so it kind of gives us a little bit of a head start in terms of stacked, I don't know what you call this, it would be like stacked distance in scenes, imagery distance. So you can create you can create distance just by doing things a lot lighter like that, okay? But see that? How those darker trees that are up top like that really stand out in this lower portion of the imagery like that. And where it comes into play is, when you're utilizing it like that. So here's these trees in the distance like that. You can build this up as high as you want to, like that. I usually don't like this like so straight across like that though. Let's grab this right here. This kind of, especially if this is like midway up the composition like this and it's like this kind of straight line. So let's like do that curve type of thing again right here. But we already did the, where was it? The treetops right here twice. Let's go with the smaller one like this to each side, like right up here, and we'll go over here. We'll try to make it really light though. You just don't want to make it darker. It could be kind of as dark, but preferably be not, preferably it's a little bit lighter. Again, to create some distance between whatever your layers of imagery. I'm using black too. I mean, you can, instead of using black, maybe you can go with gray just so it's inherently lighter too. But this is a pretty good exercise, just in terms of kind of controlling the value that you can get out of one, color, one value of a color. In this case, it's black, but you can do this with any tones, blues or anything like that. If you want to create a lot of variation from all of your existing stamp pads, you just use them drier and it just stamps out lighter. So in theory, a pad like this has every range of gray in there as well. It's not just a black pad if you use it that way. So you can get like this, whatever, like a 20% gray out of your black too, right? So it's like you have like 5 different values of gray in your stamp pad collection, which, you shouldn't have bought. No, I'm just joking. When I have like, I buy up every, like, if I don't have like a certain blue or something like that, especially for me, I always get it. There's different tones of blue too. There's warmer ones and, duller ones, as well. Okay, so see that right in there? That helped us seeing a lot, right? Or that little curve, you kind of make it a little bit more curvy than, having it straight across like that. Unless you're kind of emphasizing some kind of structure where it's all like bands of equal distance or something like that. All right, let's see. How are you? How are you, Paul? Good to see you. Good, Sharita. We want you experimenting. Of course, How do you pronounce that? Julia. I like that name. Very cool. Thanks for joining in. Good to see you. If I missed anyone, hello to you. Thanks for checking out the live stream here. Let's see. If I had more water down here, it'd be cool to do this moose like at some distance, and then have some, I don't know, like a fisherman or something like that nearby. Although you would get attacked by the moose, though, in reality. But it would still be kind of cool. Let's see. I'm going to go with the large one right here. The larger moose. I should have left a little bit more space for it, but if I knew I was going to use... here, maybe I'll just use the smaller one. Let's see. That's not... I need it a little bit more dramatic. Let's go with the big one. I do not want to be hiking anywhere near moose, from what I've been told. Okay, so I'm wiping off a little bit of that reflection, or the shadow reflection. I don't know if the shadow is going to make it into the scene here, but I'm just going like that. I'm kind of avoiding this area right here because that's the base of this image, and it might interfere with the silhouette of the stamp there. I should have held that down a little bit longer. That's a little bit lighter right there. That's okay. Okay. And let's see. I'll just use my reeds here. We have that big open sky area right here. That'd be, like I always point out, it'd be good for like a quote stamp up here or something. And again, this is on that suede paper, so I don't do too much in terms of you know, after impression effects, coloring, and all that. I do like to bring in some extra values, though. I'll enhance some shadows or something like that in there. Although on this one, I don't know. There's not a lot to do as far as that goes. I don't know what I would do on this one. Yeah, you know, there might not be anything needed to do. I don't know, maybe some like slight yellow tones or something like that for the larches, maybe. Acrylic paint pens in the trees. I don't know. It's looking pretty decent just as is. See, this is what's kind of a little bit different for me. I'm uncertain as what to do because I usually don't get that full up in my background trees just using, in the past, just straight, you know, evergreen styles of trees, okay, because it's been more solid, okay? So I have these open areas in here that are those, you know, the lighter larch tree types of textures in there, okay? So there's just, I don't know, there's different opportunities in here, at least on this paper, okay? So it's like, not sure, you know, not sure what I would do or want to do in there. Let's do something right here. Okay, let's say that we're sitting underneath here and there's like some larger trees right here. I'm going to bring in some of the art foamy branches right in here just to kind of frame off this open area up top. We got a lot of space here. You know, there's some, you know, one thing that you can do is you can add in some extra space up here if you want to, or objects up here like I'm going to do, or in scenic stamping, right, all you have, if it's like too much space up here, you can just like cut this piece off up here. You know, it'd be kind of cool. A little bit of this, like just a rising moon or sun up here, right in here, with that 1-inch hole punch type of thing. You just take this like this, and you go white pigment ink right in back of there. I think that'll, and then you do some white highlighting in here from this white light. We might have to do that on this one, I'm not sure. Tonight here. All right, so this is kind of for me, these are new stamps right here, but it's like really some basic stamping with them that I'm trying out, and they're all working just like as hoped, which, like I said, it's not really kind of any surprise, because we've been using the Lakeside Cove and stuff like that, for years now, Lakeside Cabin, that type of thing. It just has some open areas and some extra textural variation and interest now with these, these other types of trees in there. Yeah, I've heard. I don't know. Maybe that moose. You always hear about that thing with any type of larger animal like that. The if they have a calf or something like that, or breeding, or something like. I think elk too can get really aggressive during certain types of seasons, but kind of makes sense. So in Southern California, I guess they've found them recently, but I go hiking up in the mountains and there's just no bear up there, or less of it. If I go into Yosemite or something like that, there, there's trouble in the Sierras, but it's not something I really had to think about too much. There have been like mountain lion attacks in Southern California. Not anytime recently, but yeah. Haven't really had to think about like things like that over the years. Desert hiking and stuff like that. People always tell me, hey, aren't you worried about like rattlesnakes or something like that? And it's like, I think I've seen them a little bit more recently, but it's like, I don't know, out of like 100 times that I went out there. And we go off trail too, all over the place. Rocks and scrambling and all that. I saw like one snake in all that time. And we're looking for them too, because we're always careful about that. But yeah, but areas with like moose and elk, I wouldn't be able to just go anywhere. I'd be a little bit more careful about that. All right, so there's some of the art foamies, overhanging branch like that. And okay, so down here on the suede paper, not this video is about suede paper or anything like that, but I can see this little area on the moose. That was darker down there when I first stamped, and now as it's drying a little bit, you can see it's getting a little bit lighter in tone. So I have a feeling that that area up there won't be quite that dark when it's dry, okay? Where there's a lot of ink on these solid areas, these treetops here, it's probably going to get a little bit lighter. I don't know how much, because it was just those more solid areas applied more ink to begin with, okay? But we'll see. I don't know. It's kind of looking pretty cool, though, I think, in terms of the tone. Let's finish this one off a little bit more, okay? So it's going to be a really simple kind of finish on here. I'm not going to do too much, but adding that kind of that little moon in there or something like that. I see it as a moon. People might see it as a sun or something like that through some haze. But whatever it is, if you do this in white, what you do is you have reflected white light, or that same color in the same. I mean, you can stamp it out, put some sun in there, and maybe in some light yellow or something like that too. But let's see where those would go. You can go for dramatic balance and put like this, the moon right above your other focal point right here with the cabin, and it goes like this. It's like a straight line right down the middle in terms of all the focal points, with that cabin and that moose right there. But I don't know, yeah, maybe right in there, like this little peekaboo thing where it's just kind of like rising out like that. You have to have enough of it. Like I couldn't put like that much amount. You know what I mean? It'd be this tiny little bit. You got to give people a little bit more of a hint, I think, like that. But I think kind of peering out like that would be kind of interesting. And I don't want to do it over here too, because all of my impressions of those trees right over here are like super, super light. And I think over here it's just too much. So I think right in here would be kind of interesting. All right, let's just give this a try here. This will be my whatever finished piece test right here with the new stamps. I didn't test out every stamp. There's other moose and calf walking, and I didn't use the just the moose calf. I put this moose calf in here just because I had that open space, so I figured, okay, let's utilize every little space in here. So you can use this moose calf or something like that, along with the whatever the dads or something like that. Although that, like I said, it wouldn't exist. I think the males don't, are out of the picture, but it makes for kind of a little bit more of a. I saw that on one of those like paintings or something like that. It showed like a little moose calf with the dad. And it was kind of an interesting visual like that. Old show, Northern Exposure. Oh yeah, the moose, right. Walking through town. I just started watching a little bit of those episodes again. I forget what it's on. It's on one of those stations, HBO Max or something like that. Let's see. What's this thing he has? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that, Paul, whatever I was using at the time. Did someone answer that for him, if they knew? Yeah, that suede paper is looking pretty good, huh, Cynthia? I like that show, too. I was thinking about that main guy, that Joel guy. I forgot the name of the actor, but... Not that, I mean, that show was, I don't know how many seasons in when he left. And then they tried to bring in that new couple, too. That doctor or something like that, right? It was a couple. And then it only lasted for, I don't know, maybe another one season after that, or, I don't know, died out. Anytime you get that, everything kind of seemed to run its course anytime that when there's like a couple kind of with that tension between them, the love interests, and then whenever they get together, it's like, okay, that's it with the show. Although in Cheers, that did it broke the mold, huh? All right, let's see. Let's put in that little moon. Let's have it rising like about like so. Okay, so I'm not going to put this over the top of those trees too much of this white ink like this, and I'm applying it with a cotton ball. Anytime you use cotton on this type of paper, I mean, not on this type of paper, but this type of ink, I'd always recommend 100% cotton balls, not those synthetic ones. And I have tried multiple times because I thought, man, these synthetics, they feel like super soft, but it just didn't hold the moisture. So I was like doing this little kind of tapping in here, and it just, they like polys, they wick moisture, so it's not absorbing into the cotton. So I'm not having anything to transfer on there. It just didn't. And it was a situation where you're kind of like fighting the medium a little bit, and you never want to have to do that. Like struggling with the media, because it's hard to make the statement you're going after when you're like fighting against the very thing that you're applying it with. All right, let's go like that. Let's see. Now this ink doesn't dry so fast, so you can just kind of manipulate it before it's drying like that. See, like that. I'm taking off a little bit in there. I wanted a little bit to be coming through those trees, but not so much. Something like that. All right. Now, let's put this in a few other areas in here, okay? I don't think I want to do too much, though, because I think it'll look kind of like maybe strange and awkward. So let's say that this moon is just casting its light through here a little bit, and see this kind of like, I'm looking for opportunities for it. Let's put a little bit, I think it's going to have to be just like a really kind of muted statement of it. I mean, we can test. Now, see, that's like way too much, right? So I'm going to remove some of it. Here, I'm just kind of switching off to a clean area of my cotton ball like this. Like that. So it's a little bit of this like haze in the back of these trees right here that's catching some of that moonlight. Right, and let's put some like right back in here. I'm kind of picking out these areas because they're already kind of inherently a little bit lighter, okay? Just from the way, you know, the stamps stamped out or the background ended up being after the impressions, okay? So I'm just kind of going with it. Like none of this is like planned. So you're just kind of going with whatever, yeah, or I do. We go with whatever kind of developed, and I just kind of work from there. That. I'm putting a little bit in between those trees right there. Needless to say, you know, it's an easier type of application process when you have kind of a drier application of it because it's not applying so much of it. So it's not like each little tap is like a blob of white pigment ink or something like that. Mountain lion sightings in our neighborhood up in, oh my gosh, mountain lions in that neighborhood. Yeah, you're not letting those cats or, their pets kind of out too much in that type of situation. I forget where it was. There's this video here on YouTube. It's I don't know if you type in like in the search window something like I think it was like a lion or a tiger. It was jumping over a wall. I don't know where it was. Madagascar. I think it was in Africa. I don't think it could have been Madagascar. I don't know where it was. But it jumps over this wall, this stone wall. It's probably like 6 feet, but it jumps up there like it's nothing. And then it jumps back there, and it jumps back out of there a minute later, maybe 30 seconds later, with like a big, I think it was like a big, like a pit bull or something. It wasn't a pit bull, but it was like a big dog like that, and it's just in its jaws, like it's carrying nothing as well. But yeah, like mountain lion, they're so strong, and that's the only type of animal that I fear in Southern California, and it's because there was that attack at one time, and it was an attack at an area that I'd hiked before, kind of just on my own. But it's a big mountain biking area, and I've mentioned it before on these live streams at one point in time, but or I don't know, maybe multiple times. But yeah, this lady was getting dragged into the bushes. She went out mountain biking with her friend, and it's like you're getting dragged down a hillside with her head in its jaws, and she was able to get free of it because these other mountain bikers came along and started throwing rocks at that. But then I also was mentioning in Joshua Tree at one point in time this water source out there that I discovered. I went out there and then found that area. And then like a couple weeks later, I took a couple of my friends out there to look at it. And I'm getting down towards that water. I'm kind of following this trail of like bones that had still a little bit of like, I don't know, like meat on it. And by the time we got down there, it was like 2 full sets of large bighorn sheep horns down there. And it had happened like in the previous 2 weeks. It was like, oh my God, I don't really feel comfortable like anymore. It was like a perfect ambush zone. And that was right after that lady too got attacked. I was thinking someone needs to invent like a mountain lion collars, where you get this like collar around your neck, that's where they try to attack you and kind of you know, whatever, disable you. All right, putting a little bit more tone right down in this area. I'm just gonna, okay, this is just a little preliminary thing. I'll fine tune this later, but I just kind of wanted to see what this looked like on this suede paper. I hadn't worked with this suede paper in a while. Okay, that mousse is still a little bit wet, so as I'm adding this down there, it's looking a little bit grayer toned. So I need to be careful about that here. Let me see if I can build up a little bit more pure white in here. So I'll go for a little bit more of a thicker application right in here. Yeah, that needs to dry off a little bit more. See, it's like gray. So that ink, it's setting up though. It's not like super wet. Don't stamp like a VersaFine Clair on here. I don't think that would work very well. I think it would be too. I think the VersaFine Clair would be too thick and oil based to dry on this type of paper. Let me see if it's soaked through here at all. No, it looks pretty good. All right, let's add in some little highlights in our cabin right there. This is a nighttime cabin, so again, see those little areas on the windows right there. I'm just going to add in this white, and that will kind of jive with the white tones in here, and then we'll add in a few little highlights with this too. I think this would stand out a lot, so I'll be a little bit careful about how much I use of this value, because it's very light against something that's inherently darker. We're not doing this on a white piece of paper, so using a white element like this really kind of stands out. Boy, that really stands out a lot though, huh? I'm trying to put this in between those, what do you call it, lights in Windows? You know, when it has those little frames, they call it lights, don't they? This looks good too if you do it like in yellow too. It's a little bit more of a warmer light. Okay, so see that like that? Now, here's what I do too. This looked like a daytime scene, but then when you start putting in things like this, where you're introducing lighter elements in here, and suddenly it kind of takes on a darker, you know, it seems like it represents a little bit of a darker time of day, or night, whatever. So I'm putting a little bit of these highlights down here on the objects below our our windows like that. So you can see that little lighting on the rocks like that. Okay, so see this moonlight's being cast in here. It's kind of illuminating some of that whatever haze in the air. So like on the tops of some of these tree limbs, and if you can't tell, you know, I can't tell either. You just kind of make it up and put a few little dots like this. It looks kind of strange if it's just on like one tree like that. It doesn't make sense. So what you do is you, like, say over here on the side of that tree, closer to the lighting like that, maybe you add a few more dots. I mean, it's not like if you put a dot on the other side, it's like, oh my God, that, you know, I put that on the wrong side of the tree or something like that. But see this right here? It starts to bring a little bit of continuity to these types of textures. So it makes a little bit more sense from a lighting standpoint if you add a little bit more of that touch, you know what I mean? In this case, just, you know, a white dot. Now, all this doesn't have to be done. I mean, I think the card looked pretty cool, you know, just stamping the imagery out on this suede paper. But these are the types of little things that I really have fun doing, so it's just a technique that I like to add in there in terms of it's like detailed little lighting. This is like soft, undiffused, you know, diffused lighting, but this is like crisp lighting, so you have kind of like lighting that covers the spectrum of you know, really soft to, you know, like really crisp like that. Let me try something too. I like to kind of define my tree trunks a lot of times. But let's do it with a tan color. Maybe that'll be a little bit less light and, you know, kind of obvious in here. And I want this to stand out, but not, I don't want it to stand out like this. You know, I don't want it to look like an LED, you know, tree trunks or something like that. All right, so see, this is another thing that I did too on these trees. I mentioned this in the my other video when I was introducing the set, but I put more of the tree trunk little hints within the tree. So you can see these little open areas right here in this darker background tree. I put that tree trunk in there. So it gives these trees, and you can see it right in here, it gives the trees a little bit more structure. And a lot of times they get kind of colored in. So what I do is I just give that a little bit of tone right back into it with the paint. But I look at my hands like this. They're really getting inky here. Let me see, let me try it on some of the trees too. So it's a little bit, it's still pretty light, but it's a little bit darker of a white light. So that, I guess it accompanies this one pretty good. You can just use white though, you know, too. But if you have like different colors of pens, you can utilize your darker and lighter touches for a little bit, you know, a hint of some highlighting, and it won't be so contrasted against the background. So you can get some of this good texture in here. And a little bit of a more subtle color. Okay, let's try this down here too. I think that looks pretty decent. Get a little bit down here in the water too. Just kind of create a little bit of shimmer to it. And again, I'll have to come in around that moose later on. It's still a little bit slightly wet, especially when I'm tapping into it like that. It kind of made it a little bit gray. So, or what I can do too is I'll just allow this to, or I'll spray seal it, and then you put the white over it, and then you don't have to worry about, you know, that ink, that blank ink going back into solution. Some of my little rocks down in the water. I might have to use this suede paper a little bit more often than I have been. I used it, you know, a few times after I got it, but I don't know. That's pretty interesting paper. I don't know what's more interesting. This wood grain one's pretty interesting too, but in terms of impression quality, I don't know. The suede might be even better. Just from that ink retention on the surface like that, I think that looks pretty good. I'm talking about the paper quality. I'm not saying, hey, you know, look at me, you know, I got my stamping or something like that. But yeah, pretty interesting. All right, so let's take a look at some of these compositions right here. Half page, suede paper, using the image around one of the cabins. We have the side imagery here to create extra depth. Okay, this is taking this and throwing it down here in the foreground so you can use it as foreground imagery. You see, this is the same type of thing that I used right next to the cabin here. Yeah, it's a little bit lower, so it represents something a little bit closer to us. But I think this works really good. as your foreground imagery too, even with space in between, you know, your background elements like this. Here's the treetops right here, just used as a, you know, a lakeside edge, you know, back in the distance like that. This is the one that has also been used up here over the top of that cabin for distant imagery. All right. Let me see it. Have this here. This card isn't done, you know, I'm going to, like a quote stamp or, you know, a moon, like I said, would be cool up here. I don't want to do that on like every moose scene. All right. Yeah, here's that same imagery, the, what I call it, trees and shore, used to flank this imagery right here. Doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be used around the cabins. And in the foreground like that, we have some background mountains in the distance. This one's on the vintage paper. Distant shoreline right here, the large cove, plus some of those additional background images right in there. And that, you know, that's like another opportunity for a reflection card, or you can just do it, you know, you can have a card just like that too. Look how much more dynamic it is in the reflection card format though, when you do that. Something like this will be colored in with some warm tones and finished off. Greater kind of distance covered with something like this. Here are the trees and shore right here, cabin, and then a little piece of the larch shore, larch cove right here. This one right here, just use a little bit like down here, or you can use this one right here, right in here. But I really like this kind of this extended deep shoreline like that, kind of in perspective, you know, because it's going back to like a vanishing point like that. We haven't had that in the line before. I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I don't think I've had like large, you know what I mean, like medium and small like that. It could be pushed further too, because there's area of the shoreline. If I use this whole thing right here instead of just this even gets smaller like that. So you can really have this really cool, it'd be really cool to do this in a slimline format, like where you go like really long like this over this way. And then if you had this thing going like this, and then, you know, this would be, I don't know, maybe this would be done on like, I don't know, what it's silver. I don't know, it's something like this. Or yeah, just a slimline card, like really extending it out, really emphasizing this. This is already emphasized, but you can emphasize it even more. I'm trying to think, I guess I wouldn't be able to do that in this angle like this, because this is going up like an angle, unless I had the, you know, the reflection area starting down here, but you'd have a little bit of that water area that represents up there. Yeah, I'll figure it out sometime. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. People are thinking, what the heck are you talking about? All right, here's the moose like that. Just a, you know, real quick application of a quarter page card like this. And again, this would be, you know, the more like just basic paper like this, you have more variation in terms of what colors you use on it, what time of season, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, something like this, if you did it on like the suede paper, you know, I don't think you'd have to do too much more to it than just kind of stamping out the imagery. And I think that would make for a really quick scene. Or, like I said, if you stamp these types of things out on, you know, the background things like photo stamping or clouds or something like that, that would be really fast and easy to do. So I think these images, this new set too, can, you know, you can finish them off as much as you want, but I think they're really perfect for some really quick card styles of applications here, especially if you're using pre-printed papers, either photographs or these other types of papers like that. I was going to do, you know, bust out everything like some holographic papers, holographic printable vinyl sticker papers, stuff like that. I've even been looking at the glow in the darks, but we'll get to some of those going forward. But here's some different types of compositional things. It's really basic for everyone, most of you here, in terms of usage. But I think it'll really, for me, this really kind of expands on some different opportunities than what I've had in the past from that type of conifer type of environment, with just the straight evergreens going in the background. So I had that, those backgrounds with the evergreens before. Then I had, things done with the autumn series, which do have, it mixes things. And then I have those aspen ones, so I'm really kind of enjoying those fall types of opportunities with some different colors. So I don't know, this really does expand on that. So I don't know, we'll play around with these, and we'll have to play around with them in kind of a, wintry types of settings too. I think some of these, just done with these images, like, frozen lake type of thing. Chances are they, these larges we still won't have all those needles on them, but, who cares? All right, let's see here. Yeah, that mountain lion sightings in the neighborhood, boy, that would be something. If someone had one of those, like, motion triggered cameras, you'd probably capture some sightings on camera like that. Paul's not into TV that much. I do plan to watch a special on Sunday, a Dua Lipa concert. Huh. I'm so out of it, Paul, I don't even know who that is. Oh, Linda, you were a Northern Exposure watcher. I didn't watch that. I didn't. It took. I think I watched it in syndication or something like that. I didn't watch it for the first, like, I don't know, maybe it was like 2 seasons or 3 seasons of that. That was like early 90s, right? When that show was running. Did it start in the 80s? Yeah, but I really like that show. Laura gets rattlers, bobcats, and coyotes. Yeah, yeah. You got all the desert. Laura, have you ever seen like a desert tortoise anywhere? When you guys have been out anywhere, when you're doing your astral photography or anything like that at night, springtime. That was the last thing I really. I mean, there's certain things that I haven't seen out there, but it took me a long time to see a bobcat in all of my hikes, and I finally saw one time. Coyotes all the time, but yeah, the desert tortoise I was able to see. Did I say hello to Debbie? Hello, Debbie. Good to see you. Hello, Debbie. Debbie Reeves and Debbie Martin. Acadia legged. Don't tell me Acadia. Don't bring up Acadia, Debbie Martin. Otherwise, I'll start talking about it forever. I love that place. Oh, deer roam on your property, Paul. That's cool. Deer. Okay, so I lived in L.A. For a few years in this place called Whittier. Okay, and but I lived in this place right next to this place called the Whittier Hills. Okay, there's this kind of natural open space that didn't develop, but I was like right up next to it. So nothing's like deer on my porch in the backyard all the time. It really didn't. You're right in L.A. basically, but it didn't feel like that to me. So it was like I'd see the coyote would lay down in the back, like on hot summer days, because they were laying on the cool cement. And maybe that's what the deer were doing too. The deer would do that too. They would lay in the grass though. I was like on a slope in a canyon. But skunk, raccoons, it was a fantastic. I loved that aspect of it. It seemed like a perfect place for me and Stampscapes. If I'm going to be living in the city, it didn't feel like it there. Hello, Christine. How are you? Yeah, it's moose time, Christine. Where's my favorite? I like this one right here. That moose right here in this piece. I want to do this one on in photo stamping. Okay. So if you stamp, the one thing about the larches though If you have cloud textures in the background, the cloud texture is going to be showing right through the larches, but what you do is you just color them in, all those cloud textures in. But can you imagine this moose right here with the clouds up here? And if you're stamping this on a photo, I mean, it doesn't have to be a photo. You can print out like a clouds on, just plain cardstock or paper too. But having those clouds down here in the water with that moose on the top would be really cool. Or just any of these bodies of water like that would be really fun to do. So I can't wait to see what that moose looks like. Or on a reflection card, where this is like clouds up here and they're reflecting down here with that moose in the background. I think that would be really cool. So this moose right here, right here with that reflection like that, it was inspired by, well, here it is. I really like this horse in the water like this. Okay, so, so this moose right here, you know what I mean? It's kind of that same size in this reflection card here. Isn't that a fun card? So we'll do some of these types of things too, but we'll do it in like this type of format right here. So, so here's this reflection card. Here's holographic over gold, if you haven't seen this card before. Look how exciting that is with that glow in the dark moon up there. So I was just stamping out all these examples right here just on plain cardstock, just so we can do some like, stamp sketches here. But, something like this, like, with a, on our, I don't know, where is it? I don't have that, where's that paper? Oh, here we go. So we'll figure out some kind of applications like this, with that northern lighty type of thing going on here. So you imagine some of these trees like this, with these northern lights going on up over the top of it and all that, So it's like, white piece of paper, that we add our excitement to later on with certain types of inks. But you can certainly use these images with these more exciting types of dynamic surfaces as well, for, I don't know, whatever quick dynamic cards. I don't know, stamping it like this, though, you have control, like I said, over the atmosphere and the emotional kind of tone of it even more so, because you're starting with white paper, instead of working around something. So anyway, so fun to work with, like the Brookside set. Yeah, so Linda, I don't know. We'll keep an eye on that that postal strike, and we'll see when we can get a set up to you. Yeah, okay, yeah, you haven't seen that. Those desert tortoise are, those are tough ones to see. You had a mama bobcat and baby in the yard last year. That's cool. I haven't seen a roadrunner in my backyard in a while, but I used to love seeing roadrunners. So when we first moved into this house, we used to see roadrunners around. I don't know, we invaded their territory in this kind of new construction area. So there were so many rodents around in the first couple of years, but that's probably why the roadrunners around. They were hunting for whatever mice and stuff like that, right? But let's see. The baby tapped on our patio door with his paw. Oh man, Laura, they wanted you to adopt that bobcat. Oh, news tonight. Big deer sitting on the middle line on the highway, traffic going both ways. Hit then, or just sitting there? That's interesting. All right, folks. Some different stamp sketches here. I like what I see. I don't know. Everything's stamped out pretty much the way that I figured it would. No real surprises here. Seeing it though, and seeing the depth in it, especially like something like this, was really fun to see. And I can't wait to use some of these in some different types of situations. I really love this thing too. So this one would be really fun. You do some streaks in the sky like this, or this way too, if it represents water and these different striations like this with this kind of angled, distance, whatever, dynamic vanishing point thing going this way. This one is really exciting to me, just from a compositional standpoint. That should be really fun to do too. And if you put like, we can put some like kayak or something like, oops, sorry, my face is in the way there. You have something like going in that direction like that, it's really kind of a thematic type of thing like that. So yeah, if I had some, I don't know, you can have a kayaker going this way too, and it would be, you'd have to put a, quote up there about something like that, going against the flow and creating your own thing. But yeah, something like this. I would have everything kind of pointing that way, a little kayak or canoe or something like that going, floating off that way. It has a natural kind of pull to it. But anyways, yeah, I really needed all these other, like I said, for me, I love those cabin sets, and I just really wanted to have some of those extra images to go along with it. But like I said, these images can be just used on their own too, or in conjunction with. You can use these images like this, like say with the if you guys know the line, the Lakeside Cove was one of the more popular images. This is the small thing like this too. I mean, you can use this with these large ones, okay, but you can use this. But what I would do is if I was using this with these other trees like this to flank it, what you do is you use, the smaller versions of it, like, here we go, like this, these treetop ones, put these behind these trees so that they'll be, they'll be a little bit more integrated in terms of, from a textural standpoint, with using, like this as a foreground type of thing. That's what I would do. And, so you can use all, these types of background things with your, lakeside cabin, like I said, Lakeside Cove and all that, lakeside reflections, etc., etc., etc. And it should integrate just fine. These are more deciduous, kind of fall foliage like that. But you know what I mean? I mean, you could integrate, these more piney ones back there. That's kind of like a pine tree in there too. So you can use the new set with, a lot of the other imagery too. So this just gives you a little bit more scale and background, okay? As well as your side types of images. So it's kind of filling, this is, this set right here is kind of filling in the gaps, and I don't know, whatever, introducing a new animal that people have been asking me about for a while, and it's finally got around to it. Someone just asked me about it like a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, oh yeah, let's put that moose. That moose will be my filler image, around these images right here. So I don't know, we got a lot of moose on this one right here, because I don't know, people have been asking me for it about moose for like 30 years. All right. Thanks for jumping in, Jalaya, Sharita, Cynthia, anyone else watching? Thanks for joining in. Like I said, if anyone's ordered these stamps, they are out in the mail as of today. Nature set 41. Wow. Hard to believe we're at 41. I remember doing nature sets number 1, 2, and 3 initially a gazillion years ago. And we're at 41 now. Anyway, all right, folks. Hope you have a great rest of evening and weekend here. Drop me a note if you have any questions about any of the new designs or whatnot, and, or if you have questions about what they kind of will integrate with, in terms of your existing imagery as well. All right, I can't wait to finish some of these off right here, and we'll do that in the, I don't know, I'll probably start off with some of these over the weekend. I can't wait to do some of this stuff, I want to do like this would be awesome in blue tones or something like that, like a nighttime scene with that big old full moon up here. We'll do it in like glow in the dark or something like that. Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks again.